If you live long and attend much, you will run up against failure. People fail every single day. They suffer from failed relationships, failed marriages, failure at work, and failure in health. Most of us can identify with failure at some point in our lives. And we know from experience that failure is hard to cope with in a world like ours, in this world. When we fail at something, most of us think of it as an ultimate and irreversibly tragedy of all the time. We see it as the one aspect of life from which there is no reprieve, no reversal. I find it very interesting that in our passage for today, Jesus both experienced failure himself and expected his disciples to fail. In my Bible, this paragraph is subtitled The Rejection of Jesus of Nazareth. And in the last part of this passage, Jesus gives his disciples instructions about what to do when they are rejected. So Jesus knew that they were going to be rejected. Jesus has been moving from one success to another in his ministry. And then the Gospel of Mark is leading up at this point. We have witnessed some of Jesus' most amazing miracles: the stilling of the storm, the healing of the demon-possessed man, and the restoration of Jesus' little daughter of life. Now searching for some rest, Jesus journeyed back to his own hometown of Nazareth. But at his home synagogue, Jesus begins to teach, and he earns a response, but hardly like that in other places. As in other places, the people are astonished at his teachings, but this time they're astonishingly appeal of his message and manner. How dare this local boy, Jesus, assume such authority? They ask themselves. And in verse 3 says, isn't this the carpenter's son of Mary? And so on and so forth. Why they were offended at him. And actually, this is the third time, if we read in our Bibles, that Jesus has stated a glimpse of failure in his ministry. In Mark chapter 3, verse 21, his own family labeled him crazy and tried to restrain him. In Mark 3, chapter 3, verse 31, his mother and brothers and sisters tried again to remove him from his teaching and ministry. Here in his hometown, he met with rejection, prompting him to utter his famous line that we heard most of the time, and we are familiar with that. A prophet is not without honor, except in his own country and among his own relatives and his own house. But then Jesus turns to commission his disciples for the beginning of their missionary activity. He tells the disciples that it is time for them to begin their ministry, preparing them, going 2 by 2 into the countryside, preaching and casting out unclean spirits. He advised them to travel light, taking nothing but a staff. They are to carry no bread, no bag, no money in their belts. They are to wear sandals and not even take an extra tunic. So what we read in verse 11 is that Jesus prepares them for a failure when he says, however will not receive you, whoever will not receive you nor hear you as you depart from there, shake off the dust that is under your feet for a testimony against them. So Jesus makes it clear that they will not be insulated from failure just because they're going in his name. In fact, Jesus knows the failure will be a real possibility, so he provides his disciples with a sacrament of failure. Shake the dust off at your feet. Nobody likes to hear that they're going to have to face a failure in life. but understanding how Jesus provides all Christians with a sacrament of failure can empower all of us to carry on when we fail. And then many times we hear that failure can lead to a better things. Sometimes when in the middle of, right after the failure, this is the last thing that we want to believe. Because many times our highest hopes are destroyed so that we can be prepared for better things. Well, sometimes, many times, don't believe that. But our failures can be the door for a new success. Remember John James Audubon? He is forever associated with paintings he made of the birds of North America. And no one else has accurately painted birds at the natural environment in which they were found. It might not have happened had he had not gone bankrupt in business, because in 1808, he opened a store in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was after he went bankrupt in 1819, he began traveling and painting birds. Well, we all are richer of his business of failure in a way. So what he did? Shake off the dust and go on. When we get stuck in a rut, and it takes failure to jolt us off the routine so we can be truly creative. An adventurous life requires risk and risk taking. Great courage is needed to face the real change. A great failure can be the influence that enables us to risk any chance. And many can think, well, what else is going to happen to me? But sometimes, or many times, good things come out of a failure. And another story that I want to share with you is that when we listen the exalting music of Handel's Messiah, we usually assume it was surely written by a man at the pinnacle of his success. But that's not the case. In fact, it was written after he had suffered a stroke. It was written while Handel lived in poverty amid bleak surroundings. He had suffered through a particular depth night, gloom, and despair over his failure as a musician. And the next morning, he unleashed his creative genius in a musical score that continues to thrill and inspire generations later. So he shake off the dust and go on. When sometimes failure comes on our way, when we are doing everything in our power to serve Christ, many modern theologies promise health, wealth, and success if we will only follow Christ. But he promises that his disciples will experience in the same kind of rejection that he experienced. So let us not forget that almost everyone in the first 12 suffered martyrdom for Christ. Failure is good when the failure is for Christ's sake. The failure is not the end of the world. Failure is not a debilitating disease that ruins us for eternity. In fact, we should not be afraid to fail. We should expect the failure at times in the most unexpected ways. And then exercise the ritual of failure. Just shake the dust and go on. Because failure can make you do great things. Amen. Today, it's Independence Day. And then for me, particularly, and probably many of you, is the most precious present that one can enjoy. So take time today to understand what exactly independence means to you. Counting your blessings and truly appreciating your freedom. Happy 4th of July.